Hello friends, welcome back to Parthin. So let's move further. In the last video we have discussed about axial precision, we have discussed about elliptical orbit. Okay, we have discussed about how and why the seasons occur. So let's move forward. Now there is this one previous year question, that which of the following scientists proved that the path of each planet around the sun is elliptical. About this I have told you in previous slide, in previous video also. What did Galileo discover? Galileo discovered all the five moons of Jupiter. Okay, all the five major moons of Jupiter. Newton did not give any such discoveries about space. He just gave the three laws of motion. Copernicus, he said that sun is at the center and earth is revolving around the sun. Before Copernicus, it was believed that it was sun which is revolving around the sun. It was sun which is revolving around the earth. But Copernicus gave the theory of heliocentrism. Heliocentrism means sun is at the center and we all are revolving around it. So the remaining option is Kepler. Kepler was the one who said that the orbit is elliptical in shape. Okay. So let's move forward. This is how our solar system exactly looks with all its natural satellites. You can see the fast revolving Mercury, then there is this Venus, then there is our Earth with just one natural satellite, that is Moon. Then you can see Mars, it is having actually two natural satellites, as we have discussed earlier also. One is Phobos, one is Deimos. Then there is this asteroid belt is there, okay, followed by Jupiter. Jupiter has a lot of asteroids around it and it has a lot of moons also around it, a lot of natural satellites approximately. We will see further. Then this is Saturn and its rings, and this is Uranus, the slow revolving. As we go farther from the sun, the revolution time increases, okay, as we have discussed earlier. And we can see Neptune, it is just moving like a snail, so slowly. And Neptune is also having satellites, as we can see. So Jupiter has the highest amount of satellites in the solar system, and Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, and it is a natural satellite of Jupiter. So Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, and the largest moon in the solar system, Ganymede, is also the natural satellite of Jupiter only. Okay, and this Ganymede is bigger than Mercury. It is so huge that it has its own magnetic field. Then the next one is Europa. This is also a natural satellite of Jupiter only. And why this is important? Because it has icy surface, and scientists claim that there could be water beneath its icy surface. Okay, so this can be because we all know if there is oxygen, if there is water. That means these are the two basic life support systems. So life can be found at these places, or there could have been evidences of life in earlier history of solar system. Okay, so the other known natural satellites of Jupiter are Io and Callisto. Other than these five, 1, 2, 3, 4, other than these four, there are 58 other satellites also. So Jupiter has total 62 natural satellites as of today. Saturn has the second highest number of satellites, that is 33, and the largest among them is Titan. Okay, you all must have heard the name Titan a lot of time, Clash of Titan. Titan watches are there. So Titan is the largest moon of Saturn. Then the next is Uranus, is having 27 satellites. Neptune is having 13 satellites. Okay, then Pluto and Earth both have one satellite. Pluto's satellite name is Charon. Okay, but Pluto is not a planet anymore, as we all know. So if they ask you to arrange in decreasing order by amount of satellite each planet has, so number 1 will be Jupiter, followed by Saturn, then Uranus, then Neptune, then Mars. Mars has 2 satellites, and then Earth, which has 1 satellite. Okay, so smallest moon in our solar system is Deimos, which is of Mars. Okay, so friends, let's revise this entire universe again. Okay, so in the beginning we have seen the difference between million, billion and trillion. That's nothing to be revised again. Light year we have discussed, it is the unit of distance in space, and it is the amount of distance traveled by light in an year. Okay, so light travels with the speed of 3 lakh kilometer per second, and in that way in a year it will travel a distance of 9.3 trillion kilometer. One light year is 9.3 trillion kilometer. So if you just remember the speed of light, you can calculate it in the examination also. What is the how much is one light year, just by multiplying it by 365, 24, 60, 60. Okay, so space between two stars is Interstellar. I asked you to watch Interstellar movie. Now you can watch the Interstellar movie. You will find it very amazing and very interesting, and you will understand a lot of concepts also. The distance between the Earth and the Sun is 150 million kilometers. Okay, we are in Milky Way galaxy. Then we started Big Bang theory, and in the Big Bang theory you have to remember the three elementary particles, that are leptons, bosons and quarks. Then we studied about Large Hadron Collider, which is located at the Swiss-France border near the city of Geneva. And we saw the Large Hadron Collider, and in that Large Hadron Collider what was discovered? Higgs boson particle was discovered, which we also named as God particle. Because of this Higgs boson particle, the energy, the mass energy symmetry was lost, and hydrogen and matter was formed in the form of hydrogen gas, and with that hydrogen gas stars were formed. How stars were formed, we will again revise in the further in the upcoming minutes. Okay, so what happened was stars were formed and galaxies were formed. Then what happened, because of huge masses, huge gravitational pull was there in between all the stars, and then came a point of singularity. How was the point of singularity? Like this, this was the Big Crunch stage, and it was followed by Big Bang explosion, which happened in the next 1 by millionth fraction of a second. Okay, this is the Big Crunch happening. Every star is getting into itself into one point of singularity, and it became at the size of proton. It's very dense, and then Big Bang explosion occurred, and we are still in an expanding state. The universe is still expanding. Okay, how do we get to know about it? Because of redshift of every planetary object in the universe. If it is showing blue shift, means it is coming towards us. If it is showing red shift, means it is going away from us. Okay, and only one galaxy is showing blue shift, and its name is Andromeda galaxy. So friends, moving further, we went to the formation of stars. How stars are formed? Stars are formed by fusion reaction. What is fusion reaction? It is nothing but when two light nuclei are combined to form a heavy nuclei. That's what is fusion reaction. And in order that to take place, we require a huge amount of temperature. Millions of degrees of temperature is required. Okay. Then we studied about gravitational force. If the mass between two objects is increasing, then the gravitational force between them will increase. If the distance between both the objects is increasing, then the gravitational force between them will decrease. So mass of both the objects is directly proportional to gravitational force, and the distance between them is inversely proportional to gravitational force. Then we came to know what all elements, what all matters are formed inside the core of a sun when the fusion reactions are happening. Hydrogen combine to form helium, then beryllium is formed, carbon is formed, oxygen is formed. Okay, in our sun till oxygen it will be formed. Okay, oxygen or till neon it will be formed, but in a massive star, our sun is an average star, so that's why till only oxygen and neon. But in a massive star it will go on till iron is formed, magnesium is formed, silicon is formed, and that is this here we see the equilibrium between the thermal radiation force pushing outwards and the gravitational force which is pulling the gases of the sun inwards. Okay, so there is an equilibrium maintained. When the equilibrium is lost, either the sun will explode or it will implode. Okay, so now this is the timeline when hydrogen is converted into helium, helium converted to carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, and then finally when there is only iron left in the core, so the immense gravitational pull forces the cores to collapse. Okay, so moving further, that's what we have discussed. The gravitational pull is towards the center, and the heat force is radiating outwards like this. Okay, So the only two conditions can happen. If the radiation force is more than the gravitational pull, then it will explode, then the star will explode. If the radiation force is less than the gravitational pull, then everything will be pulled inside and the star will implode. Now this is known as nova explosion. When will it happen? When the temperature inside the core of the star is enormous. The star will explode, and the exploding star will be known as nova. Okay. So as per third law of Newton, what will happen is, since there will be explosion, so everything will be pushed outside. Now there will be a recoil force which will pull everything inside towards the center. So everything will collapse towards the center, and a daughter star will be born, which is known as white dwarf. White dwarf. Why will it be white? Because the core is now the surface of the star, and still a little amount of hydrogen is left, so it is emitting some amount of energy from the core. Okay. When will nova explosion occur? When mass of star is less than 1.5 times mass of our sun. 1.4 times mass of our sun is also known as Chandrasekhar limit. So whenever mass of a star is less than Chandrasekhar limit, nova explosion will occur. What will be the next stage of white dwarf? It will become a red dwarf. When all the fuel is exhausted, only a rocky body will remain, and it is known as death of a star. Only red dwarf will remain. Now what are red giants? Red giants are nothing but a star whose plasma is in a very expanded state, because there is enormous amount of heat in that star. So plasma has expanded to a greater space. It has gone very much away from the core of the star. That is a red giant. And then what will happen is, if it is a red supergiant, okay, I told you two types of star, average star and massive star. In average star, it will become a red giant, and further it will form a planetary nebula. That is, all the gases, all other particles will be pushed outwards, okay, because of the radiation force, and only white dwarf will remain, which will further become into red dwarf, and which is a dead star. Now in a massive star where the amount of hydrogen is way more than an average star, it will be a massive star. What will happen in a massive star? It will go on to create till iron. Okay, even iron will be created in its core. What will happen in an average star? It will stop at oxygen or neon maximum, but here silicon will be formed, followed by magnesium, followed by iron. So its core will be very heavy, the gravitational pull will be very stronger, and so after the supermassive supernova explosion, it will be either becoming a neutron star or a black hole. So moving further, this neutron star which is formed, it is very dense, it is super dense star, because its diameter is just 10 to 25 kilometer, but the mass is that of an entire star, okay, in that small amount of space. The neutron star, it will only become neutron star is essentially formed after a supernova explosion only. And when will a supernova explosion occur? When the mass of a star is more than Chandrasekhar limit. What happens when the mass of a star is less than Chandrasekhar limit? Normal nova explosion will occur, and it will become a white dwarf. When the mass of a star is more than Chandrasekhar limit is 1.4 times mass of the sun. In that case, there will be a supernova explosion, okay, and a neutron star will be formed. So whenever a neutron star's pole faces towards Earth, okay, the Earth will register a pulse of energy, and then we will come to know that, okay, we have faced a pulsating star. This previous year question has come, as we have discussed earlier also. This is a pulsar star because it is pulsating energies from the poles of itself, okay, not from anywhere other, because this neutron star is having so dense, it is so dense that it has its own electromagnetic field, and that electromagnetic field is very strong, and because of that electromagnetic field, light is not able to escape from any other surface other than poles. Why? Because at the poles electromagnetic fields are converging, only there the light gets some amount of space to escape. Moving forward, quasars are the brightest objects in the universe, and it is nothing but actually a galaxy. This is a quasar, okay, this is a quasar, this is a galaxy, and this is a quasar. It is the brightest object in our universe, and it shows twinkling also. Only stars shows twinkling, okay, planets don't show twinkling, because planets don't have their own light source. It's stars which have their own light source. Now what is black hole? Black hole will be generated when the mass of a star is more than 3.2 times mass of the sun. normally when it is 6 to 8 times the mass of the sun. Okay, so in that case there will be a supermassive supernova explosion, gravitational pull will be huge, and now what will happen is everything will, because of this huge gravitational pull which will be recoiled, everything will collapse into even a smaller space, even a smaller space than a neutrino star, and it will become like a point of singularity what was there at the time of big crunch. Okay, so this point of singularity is black hole. You see this black portion, this is black hole, and it is sucking, and it has so huge gravitational pull that it is sucking everything out of this star. Okay, and this surrounding disk is known as accretion disk. It always sucks everything in a spiral way. Moving forward, this is a black hole, and every you can see the outer limit of it. This is known as event horizon. The outermost layer is event horizon. The Sagittarius constellation, which is in the center of our Milky Way galaxy, that Sagittarius constellation also contains one black hole known as SGRA. Okay, so moving forward, whenever a black hole consumes too much mass, it becomes okay. Whenever you eat too much, your stomach will burst. In the same way, whenever the black hole consumes too much of mass, it will also explode, and what will happen? More galaxies and stars will be formed. So this was the previous question that we saw earlier also. Coming forward to solar system, our sun. Okay, and after our sun, the closest star from our earth are Alpha Centauri and Proxima Centauri, and among these two also Proxima Centauri is the closest to our earth after the sun. Okay, moving forward, the sun rotates at a speed of, the sun rotates on its axis in 26 days, and it revolves around the Milky Way galaxy in 200 million years. Okay, it is not stagnating. It is not stagnated. Sun is also rotating and revolving. Planets are coplanar. Planets and sun all are coplanar. Okay, all planets revolve around the sun from west to east. All satellites revolve around the planets from west to east. Okay. Now this is a comparison chart. You can look at it later also to give you a glimpse. This is Mercury. This is Earth. This is Earth. This is Jupiter. Okay, this is Jupiter, this is Sun, this is Sun, and this is another star, Sirius. This is Sirius, here it is Sirius, this is another star, Aldebaran. This is Aldebaran, and it is nothing in front of Betelgeuse, and Betelgeuse is way too smaller than V by Canis Major is. So we are very small point of everything, and universe is very huge. Coming forward, this is the distance between our Sun and the closest star, Proxima Centauri, and these are the binary stars Alpha Centauri A and B. Okay, it is approximately 4 light years. 1, 2, 3, 4 light years approximately. Okay, this is Sirius, what we saw just now. This is Wolf 359. This star is smaller than our sun. Yippee. Okay, moving forward, coming to sun. This is our glowing sun. These are the layers of the sun, of our sun. Inside, the innermost one is core, followed by radiative zone, followed by convection zone, followed by photosphere, followed by chromosphere, and the outermost layer is corona. On a daily basis, only chromosphere is visible to us from our naked eyes, and corona can only be seen at an instance of an eclipse. Okay, when moon covers the sun. This is the temperature. This is the temperature difference between core and the outermost surface. Core is at 15 million degrees centigrade, and as we move outwards, the temperature drops, and at corona it is suddenly increased to 2 million degrees centigrade, while at the surface it is just 5500 degrees centigrade. Okay, remember this fact. Corona is not the coolest one. Corona is the outermost one, but it is also having 2 million degrees centigrade temperature more than chromosphere. So now here we saw the comparison between different planets of our solar system, their axial tilt and their rotational speed. Okay, here I told you about why the revolution speed of the inner planets is more as compared to outer planets. This is a chart which you can see later also, comparison between the rotation speed and revolution speed. You have to know it, which one is bigger, which one is smaller. You should know the ascending and descending order of these. Moving forward, as I told you, we all are in a vortex movement. Why? Because see, This is the coplanar movement of our solar system. This is the coplanar movement. We all are revolving around the sun, but the sun itself is in motion and it is revolving around galaxy, Milky Way galaxy. So what kind of movement do we have? Vortex movement. This was the difference between outer planets and inner planets. We have 4 inner planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. 4 outer planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Okay, inner planets are small and dense. Larger outer planets are large and they have greater mass. Inner planets, because they are so close to sun, they can't have their own gravity. They can't sustain many natural satellites, because the sun has such huge gravitational pull that it will suck those gravitation. It will suck those natural satellites. So that's why Mercury and Venus don't have any natural satellite. Earth has 1 natural satellite. Mars has 2 natural satellite. Jupiter has 62 natural satellite, and so on and so forth. And outer planets have large number of satellites because they have huge mass, so they have huge gravitational pull, so they can secure their own natural satellites from getting sucked into the sun. Okay. Now rotational speed, inner planets show slower rotational speed because of gravitational pull of sun acting on them, and outer planets show faster rotational speed because they are distant from sun. So obvious, so retarding force is not acting on them. The retarding force of gravitational pull of the sun is not acting on them that much. Okay, and but at the same time, outer planets revolve slower as compared to inner planets. Inner planets are also known as terrestrial planets, and outer planets are also known as gas giants because they are fully made of gas. Jupiter is mostly made of hydrogen and helium. Okay, Uranus has its blue and green color due to a lot of methane on its surface. Okay, and outer planets are also known as Jovian planets, Jovian, Jovian planets. Sorry. So this is the size chart of all the planets. You can see among the outermost planets, Neptune is the smallest one. Among the 4 inner planets, Earth is the largest one. Okay, so then we moved on to Mercury. It is closest to Sun and it shows second slowest rotation because there is not much mass in it. So gravitational pull of Sun is not acting on it. With that much vigor. Okay. Then we saw the revolution time of all the planets we have already seen. Atmosphere, its atmosphere has a lot of hydrogen and small amount of oxygen also. Okay, then this 59 days of rotation and diurnal temperature, these are all just facts. You can see them later also. Venus has a peculiar fact that its axis is its axial inclination is 180 degrees centigrade. This is very peculiar to just Venus. Okay. And Uranus, as you can see, its axis is tilted at 90 degrees at 90 degrees. So it is rotating from north to south. Rather, all other planets are rotating from west to east. Only Venus, because its axis is tilted at 180 degrees centigrade, it is rotating. It is showing retrograde rotation. It is rotating from east to west, and its geographic poles are also reversed. Okay, here is the south pole and here is the north pole. Okay, it is totally reversed. So moving forward, it shows the slowest rotation because I have told you the reason. It has enormous mass compared to Mercury, so gravitational pull of Sun is acting on it more as compared to Mercury. So its rotation is getting retarded. Its rotational speed is getting retarded by the gravitational pull of the Sun more as compared to that of Mercury. That's why it is the slowest one, despite being second most inner planet. Okay, despite being second nearest to the Sun. Its atmosphere is dominant in CO2, but its atmosphere has very less amount of gases. So whether the carbon dioxide is dominant or not, it doesn't matter. In the night, in the long duration of night of 121 days, it will emit a lot of heat energy which it has trapped during the daytime of 121 days. So its diurnal temperature range is approximately 700 degrees centigrade, despite having a heat trapping gas which is carbon dioxide. It is also known as morning star, and it is seen as morning star before sunrise in the east, and it is also known as evening star it is seen as evening star at the west horizon after sunset. Remember these facts: evening star after sunset, morning star before sunrise. Okay. Venus is also known as Earth's twin because both of them share almost approximately equal mass. Coming forward to Mars, Mars has two satellites, Phobos and Deimos. Phobos is the inner one and the larger one, and Deimos is the outer one and the smaller one. Deimos is the smallest satellite, smallest natural satellite in our solar system. Okay. Mars appears to us red because its soil contains iron oxide in its soil. Okay, that's why we call it red planet. Meridionum plain is the largest smooth surface where we land our probes. Curiosity has gone, Mangalyaan has gone, all those. Okay. Moving forward, here is its diurnal temperature range. The region is same as that of Venus. These are some of the similarities between Earth and Mars. Okay, same axial tilt, same time for rotation. Methane is found on both the planets. Methane has also been confirmed by our Mangalyaan, and methane is found by organic decay. Okay, water has been found by NASA's Curiosity on the surface of Mars. Revolution time is almost double as compared to Earth. Okay, now these are the asteroids. Asteroid belt is found between Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter is followed by an asteroid. It is followed by a cluster of asteroids, and Jupiter is following a cluster of asteroids. So Jupiter is totally surrounded by asteroids. Okay. This is Jupiter surrounded by asteroids. Moving forward, this is how OSIRIS-REx, the spacecraft which was sent to Bennu asteroid, this is how it went to Bennu asteroid. You can see this slide later also, this animation, how it went from Earth and collected sample from Bennu asteroid. This is also the same one, a bit more explanatory. Coming to Uranus, as we have discussed, it contains methane on its atmosphere, so it has blue-green color. Its axial inclination is more than 90 degrees, so it rotates from north to south. Okay. Why does we see the same phase of the moon every time? Okay. Because its rotational speed and revolutionary speed is same, that is 27.3 days. That's why we see the same side of the moon every time. This is known as synchronous rotation. So coming forward, these were some of the constellations and their Indian names, and this is just fact based. You can look at it later also. Okay. Then we discussed about axial precision. It is the amount of time taken by our Earth to which is already tilted at 23.5 degrees. This axis completes one full rotation. Okay. Currently we are here. Our north pole is forcing the star Polaris of constellation Ursa Minor. Okay. And so currently we have covered 14,000 years, and when we cover 12,000 years we will be somewhat here. Okay, our axial tilt will be facing like this. Currently it is facing like this. So when it will face like this, our pole star will be Vega. Our north pole will be facing Vega of constellation Lyra. Moving forward, elliptical orbit. What is perihelion? That when the Earth is closest to the Sun, it is known as perihelion. When the Earth is farthest from the Sun, it is known as aphelion. When the Moon is closest to the Earth, it is known as perigee, and when the Moon is farthest away from the Earth, it is known as apogee. So this is a seasonal variation diagram. As you can see, on 21st of December, this is the winter solstice in northern hemisphere, summer solstice in southern hemisphere. Okay, 21st June is summer solstice in northern hemisphere and winter solstice in southern hemisphere. 21st March and 23rd September are equinoxes in both the hemispheres, northern and southern hemisphere. What happens in summer solstices? It is the longest day of the year. What happens in winter solstices? It is the longest night. Okay. So what is this periapsis? On 3rd of January we are closest to Sun at 147 million kilometer approximately. What is apoapsis? It is relatable to aphelion, apoapsis, and periapsis is relatable to perihelion. Okay, so on 3rd of July we are farthest away from Sun, 152 million kilometers. So we saw that seasons are because of tilting of the earth on its own axis. Okay, if there is no tilt, then we won't see any seasons. Since we have tilts, that's why the proportion of light that is falling on each hemisphere, it changes every month. Okay, that's why we have seasons. If it was not tilted, the same amount of the same proportion of sunlight would have been falling on both the hemisphere throughout the year, so no seasons. Like this, as you can see here, this is December and January, and this is the North Pole. This is the northern hemisphere. As you can see, this northern hemisphere, as you can see, this is very less lit by the sunlight. Sunlight received in this area is very less as compared to this huge area of southern hemisphere. This is happening in the month of December and January. In the month of June and July, it will be totally reversed, and what will happen is this portion, this amount of area will be receiving sunlight in northern hemisphere, so there will be summer in northern hemisphere and winter in southern hemisphere. We have already discussed everything. So now this is coming back to axial precision. So this is currently we are here. Okay, currently we are having perihelion on 3rd of January when we are closest to the sun, and our axis is tilted in this way. Okay, so we have winter solstice on 21st of December. What will happen after 12,000 years is around 12,000 AD, that is after 10,000 years approximately. What will happen is we will have spring around this time. In January we will have spring. Okay, and so that's how axial precision affects the seasons on earth. They get totally reversed in every approximately 13,000 years. Okay, that's how axial precision affects. Now this is these are our planets and all their natural satellites. This one we have just not discussed, so I don't think we need to discuss it now. Thank you friends. Once again, please like the video if you have gained something new. Okay, please subscribe to it if you wish to gain something new from our upcoming videos. You will get to know whenever we are uploading new videos, and so you will gain a lot of new knowledge. Please share these videos as much as you can, so that everyone around you will get to know this new knowledge, and the more you share the knowledge, the more it will increase. Okay, because they will also watch the same videos and they will also get the same knowledge, but their angle will be different towards it, or they must have read something other than what we have taught about it, and so your discussion will start. You will also get to know something new from your friends and families. That's how your knowledge will increase. So you need to share these videos with your friends and family members, and do ask doubts in the comment section and in the Telegram channel link what we have provided in our description. Also we will be providing you links to test some of the tests that we have designed for you. You need to give those tests and you need to ask a lot of doubt. You can gain knowledge from wheresoever you want, but your doubts need to be cleared thoroughly. So you need to ask doubts to us, and your doubts will be solved personally. It will be like home tuition. You will feel like you are sitting in a home tuition. We won't leave you until your doubts are clear. Okay friends, that's it for today. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.